Hey everybody, Mo here, and today I'm not bringing you a Meta Monday, mostly because the season just ended. I will be going over who won the tournament and how the tournament ended up, and the lineups that actually did really well in the tournament. That video will be for tomorrow. Today I kind of wanted to put something out more quickly about how kind of the Open just went overall, and how this weekend went. So to start things off, for those of you that don't know, this weekend was the first ever Runeterra Open that actually qualified you for Worlds. This was the start of the very first competitive season that qualified you for the 20 championship, and the first actual season for the new competitive 2.0, as Riot puts it. So there are a lot of high hopes going into this tournament, going into this weekend. We just came out of a 2.5 month long beta season where nothing counted towards anything. There was no real reason to play outside of just personal wanting to get better and kind of just like stay in shape. But you weren't really playing towards a goal for anything because nothing in the beta counted. The entire point of the beta was to test out the system, test out the open, see how things went. And I guess just to gather information and data for Riot side. So that way, whenever we had our first open, things kind of went well. And things kind of went more smoothly. But that's not really what ended up happening, as you might know if you tried to play or are on Twitter in the Open this weekend. So I put out a tweet longer, kind of just wrapping everything up in what happened this weekend at the time. But then quickly there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened after this weekend, that happened after I posted my Twitter post that we'll get to here in a moment also. Yeah, so a lot of drama, a lot of competitive LoR drama, and a lot of just failures from Riot side. So the name of my tweet longer is disappointed and unacceptable, and I'm not going to read this word for word, but I'll kind of go over the main points for it. I'll have a link to my Twitter down in the description below if you want to go find this post. But I'll basically just cover the very big points of each thing. So I'll read the opening. So to start things off, I wanted to let everyone know that Riot is going to fix their systems moving forward. Ruben has already tweeted out, hey, we know this open is going to have some messed up stuff. Like, for example, matchmaking can be kind of messed up. There's not going to be same record matchmaking. And, there's just a bunch of stuff that we're going to be fixing going into the future. So if this one's not perfect, that's fine. Kind of take this open with a grain of salt. This isn't what a normal open is going to be. But with all that said, and still taking things with a grain of salt, this open was still just disappointing and just unacceptable, right? And then the points we're going to cover is people started their open run or could have started their open run before the open run actually went live. The matchmaking was beyond messed up. People were going 7-0 and queuing into people that were 4-1, stuff like that. Or 7-1 queuing into people that were 4-1. So just not even on the same page of stuff like that. MMR in the open, which apparently exists, but Riot said MMR doesn't exist in gauntlets and opens. But I think there's very clearly MMR. We have some ways to show that also. And times being changed on people. So again, this is just in client time saying oh, the tournament is going to start at this time, stop at this time, and that got changed around midday with no announcement or anything. And records of 9-1 not making day 2, which is absolutely atrocious. This entire open should have just never happened, in my opinion, and it shouldn't count towards Worlds because of how many people got screwed over from not their fault from Riot. And we've seen Riot do this before. There was a seasonal last year where essentially a bunch of matches just got Dano snapped, and people just were handed losses. They got disconnected from their round, they got disconnected from their opponent and just got given losses, and that was it. And then some people that ended their entire tournament run, some people it forced them to play perfectly for the rest of the run and then just not qualify towards the end, and they missed out on tiebreakers. It's just all this type of stuff. And the Riot said, yeah, that was a big enough mess up on our end that we're just not going to count the seasonal towards Worlds points. And then so I'm hoping this is something of the same nature once you kind of see what all happened. So to start things off, we'll go with the early open access. Access to the early open, basically. And what this means is there is a huge bug found right before the open where if you just simply change the time on your computer, you passed the open. And I'm actually going to see if this is something that can happen right now. I'm going to open up my LoR client. But basically what this means is the timing for the gauntlet and stuff, like, right, how they coded it is local to your computer and not put on a server time, which means the gauntlet doesn't open up on their end um once their server time hits like 1 p.m. or whatever time it is, but whenever your computer does. So for example, if I go to the gauntlet right now, it says, oh, the play is available between 1 p.m. and 5 a.m., so you can't play. But if I change the time on my computer, which I don't actually know how to do, let me see, adjust date and time. And if I change the time on my computer to simply say, or we'll just say PM here, all of a sudden, if you can see now, I know I have LOR, sorry, I have LOR taking the main thing, but I just changed the time on my computer to 8 p.m. Boom, I can enter the gauntlet now. Now, of course, I'm not going to queue into anybody, right? Because no one else is, and just so you know, like, it lets me do the full sign up and everything. Like, I can go through the gauntlet right now. And of course, the thing is that I'm going to go ahead and set my time back. So see, like, I set my time back to regular time. You can't see because my camera's covering it, but it's 8:53 today. So it's not working. But now I can't enter it anymore. So obviously that, like, shouldn't be an issue because you're like, oh, well, if you're the only person entering the client early, entering like the open early, then you're not going to find anyone, right? Well, that becomes an issue when you have multiple accounts or you have 2 devices. And so if you have multiple devices and multiple accounts, then all of a sudden there's only going to be 2 people in the queue, and you can sit there and you can win and play your games like just into yourself, right? And this is kind of what happened here. So this is what Pavlici is. I believe he is a I believe he's like a Russian player. He's a really good Russian player. And he found out this bug where basically you could just change it. And you can see the check the match history here. He basically just made a bunch of secondary accounts, like just a bunch of like garbage Murph accounts, and went 3-1. Like, because you can force yourself. And this, he posted this and did all this before the open even started. So obviously, like, don't worry about it. He didn't actually like play out this. One, he's EU, and this was on an NA account. And 2, I mean, he just didn't, because he already played his EU account. So don't think Pavlici did this. I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, this guy just outed himself for cheating. That's not happened. Now, surely no one actually did this, like I point out here. Like, no one's dumb enough to just be like, yeah, let me just get in early and win here. Because surely Riot has a way to tell, like, hey, wait a minute, this person got their wins before, you know, like 1 p.m. or before the open was supposed to start. You know, stuff like that. So, like, this probably isn't a big deal in the sense of it didn't happen. But the fact that it could have happened and the fact that it's, like, possible is just a giant oversight on Riot. And I think if Pavlici would have not made it as public as they did and, like, kind of brought it to Riot's attention, I don't know if Riot would have even known about it. I don't know if Riot would have actively looked into it. If someone did do this, like, let's say Pavlici never exposed this to the public, and someone else found out about it, and they just kind of went through and went 9-0, would Riot have looked at that? Like, is there anything that flags people like that? Or, like, would it has been something that just, like, went under the radar? Like, we don't know. Like, we generally don't know. Hopefully, because it was made to the public, and because Riot knows that we know about it now, they can go back and see if anything fishy happened. But, yeah, that's just something that just, again, it's just, like, unacceptable from such a major company. It's just kind of, like, I saw people saying, I'm not a coding guy, so I don't actually know how hard it is to do that type of coding. But I saw people that were just saying, like, this is such, like, a basic mistake that I would have, like, I did this in high school and I would have got a failing grade if I coded like this in high school. So I don't know if that's, like, real or if those people are just being, like, facetious and, like, exaggerating. But, yeah, it's kind of, that's definitely a mistake I feel like a few, like, small companies would make and not such a big one. The big one, though, is matchmaking. So we're not going to go too into it because this is something that Riot said they are going to change. They are, the idea is, like I said, my friend went 7-1, queued into his brother, which was 4-1, and they queued at the same time, not trying to end each other or, like, you know, win game share or anything like that, match fix. They were just legit both queued up at the same time, not thinking they could hit each other because they don't play LoR. This was their first LoR tourney ever, unfortunately. And one was 7-1, one was 4-1, so they're like, surely we don't hit each other, and they did. And so that's just, like, literal example, stuff like that happening. People were afraid that people would go like 8-0 and then queue into someone 0-2 and just get a free win. Mostly stuff written off as like things that could happen but probably won't. But the biggest thing here and why it's such a short section is that Riot said they were going to fix this going into future opens. Going into future opens, Ruben said that there is going to be same record matchmaking, or at least like pretty close to it, more stricter matchmaking. That means if you're 2-0, you're probably going to play against someone else that's like 2-0 or 2-1 or 3-0 maybe, like somewhere close to your range. Like maybe not exactly same record matchmaking, but really, really close. That way you don't have someone, again, that's like 7-1 queuing into someone that's 4-1. Just people that you're really not supposed to be playing against. So that's why this section is short. But the biggest thing about matchmaking that we found out from this weekend is MMR. So for those of you that don't know what MMR is matchmaking rating. It's kind of like a secret number that these games give you that determine how much of a good player you are. So a good player can have an MMR of like, we'll just give it a number of like 100, right? We'll say 100 is really high MMR, but your silver buddy has an MMR of 12. So that way, when they queue up at the same time, it's going to try and put the 100 MMR player against another like 90 to 110 MMR player, somewhere around there. And then your buddy with 12 MMR is going to also only going to play against people with like 10 to 20 MMR, somewhere around there, right? So it's like the soft MMR system of just simply trying to put people against people that it thinks is the same rank. Now, while that is really good in ladder, that is definitely not how tournaments should work, and it has never been how card game tournaments work. Card game tournaments has always worked off of this thing called a Swiss round, where basically you just queue into people of the same record as you that we talked about earlier, and it does not matter. Sometimes you can get MMR, like you can get buys for round one and stuff like that, so you can get like free wins because of how good you are as a player. So because you do want to reward the good players, so that's one way people do it, but it's never MMR based. And then after round one, it literally doesn't matter what your like MMR is or your rank is or anything, because you're going to be 1-0, and so the game is just going to simply match you against somebody else that is 1-0, and then it'll match you against someone that's 2-0, and it'll match you against someone that's 2-1, and it literally does not matter what your rank is. If you're Masters rank 1 or if you're Bronze 5-0 LP, if you are 3-0 at Bronze 5-0 LP, you will play against other people that are 3-0. If you are 1-1, you will play against other people that are 1-1. So this was never an issue in the past. But yeah, I feel like there is MMR in this game. And how I came across it was actually kind of random. And I posted on Twitter, and other people responded with the same cases. So basically, my friend just started playing this game about a week ago. He is, I think, like low platinum, but it's like a brand new account. Never played LoR before this. Low platinum. He basically spent like $50 to get the top 3 decks that I helped him prepare for. He played for like a week to prepare. And this is what he played against. So I'm opening up my tweet, and I'm going to show you guys my friend's match history. So he went 9-1 in the open. I'm not showing the first loss because the first loss he played against like deep in an elites and lost. So he played against a real matchup, lost round 1, and it's kind of like, oh, that's what you expect from a brand new player. You queue into like a good player, some real decks, you're going to lose. But then he proceeds to queue into this type of stuff. His round 2, he hit Garen, Misfortune, Scouts, I presume. Okay, whatever. His round, Garen, Misfortune, Scouts, and then Zed Callista. This is the same guy. Okay, whatever. Those can be kind of seen as like off-meta fun decks, whatever. Plus, you're in like an 0-1 bracket. Cool. Then his round 3, he queues into Jinx Teemo, where the person doesn't even have 6 champions. They have 2 Jinx and 1 Teemo. And then that person's second deck is Mono Freljord, Ashe Tryndamere. His round 4 is Ashe Tryndamere LeBlanc against someone that doesn't have 6 champions in their deck. Then he queues against Puffcaps. You're like, okay, Puffcaps. Puffcaps, Traps, real deck. This is a real opponent, real deck. Sure, I'll give that one to you. So far, we've played against one real deck, one like almost real deck, if you want to call it that, even though it doesn't even have 6 champions. So like, who knows what this list looked like? I could probably have pulled it up here on the side, but it's just not the point. So yeah, that's the first half of this tournament run, and here's the second half of this tournament run. So at this point, he's like 5-1 or something, right? So he's like 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's 4-1 at this point. So this is him going 5-0. He plays against Lurk with 2 Rek'Sai. 2 Rek'Sai. It's not even a 3 Rek'Sai Lurk deck. This person doesn't even have full 6 champions. Then he plays against someone that has Shadow Isles Rise and only has 2 Rise in the deck. Not even a full set of Rise. that person's secondary deck, you're like, oh, okay, here we go. We're back to good decks. Samira Leona, right? Samira Leona, top deck. Just recently won the Open, kind of. It's very, very solid, very understandable. Mo, you're crazy. Tinfoil hat, put it away. But if you look here, again, this person only has 4 champions. Now, there are some decks where you don't really need 6 champions. For example, Jack Seraphine sometimes doesn't play 6 champions. If you're playing a Leona Noxus list without Samira, as we just saw Floppy Mudkip and Card Gamer play in the Open, got first and second place at the America's Open. They only played 5 champions in their Leona deck. So there are definitely times where you can play less than 6 champions. But if it's a champion as good as Leona and as good as Samira, you should be playing 3 of them. And every list has you playing 3 of them. So the fact that this person doesn't just tells me that they are a new player that just doesn't have a collection. They don't have all of the cards. Because Leona isn't even like a new card. So you can't even say like, oh, well, it's like, what if it's someone that played for a long time and then just like took a small break and came back for the expansion and they don't have any standard legal cards. It's like, well, if that's the case, you should probably have 3 Leo at the very least, because this card's been around since Targon came out, right? It's been around for like 2 years now or something. So like not having 3 Samiras, sure, I can understand. Not having 3 Leonas, it doesn't really make sense. And then also just like put other champions in the spot. But neither here nor there. And then he immediately queues into the same person again. Immediately queued. So he beat them here 2-0, immediately queued into them again. And then beat them. And then for his final round to go 9-0, he played against Ionia, Vandal City, Nar Tristana, with only 4 champions in their deck. Again, not even 6. And then that person's second deck was again Zed Callista, but with 2 Zed and 1 Callista. So what this shows is I'm not saying my friend is bad. My friend is a very, very, very good card player. I'll make that known. Like, he comes from other, like, poker, Magic the Gathering. Very good. We've played on a team before, traveled across the country together. So, very, very good card player. If he told me he went 9-1, I would not, like, I was like, cool. Like, that's great, man. I'm very proud of you. Very first LoR tournament, started playing a week ago. That's cool. But the fact that he was able to do that with a brand new account with low MMR against players like that is really fucking weird. And so I kind of like thought it was weird. I thought it was kind of like a joke. So I posted it on Twitter, as you guys just saw in that tweet. And then I got replied to by Majin Bay's and Austin Yost friend, Mask Momentum, who's a really good Flesh and Blood player. I think he's like literally top in the world in Flesh and Blood. So again, another really good card player who went 9-0. So you're like, oh, okay, well, you're just like a very, very good card player. It makes sense that you can go 9-0. Until you look at this. This guy is literally a silver player. Like, no, I'm not flaming. He is literally a silver player. And this is what he played against in his 9-0 round to make it into day 2. And at 8-0, round 9, he plays against Lucian Callista, Mono Ash Freljord Demacia, and then Dragons. So Dragons, you can like kind of call a real deck. Sure, I'll give that one to you. But Mono Ash, Demacia Freljord, and Lucian Callista, kind of weird. And then you look at what he played against previously. This was at 6-0, so this was round 7. At 6-0, this guy plays against Mono Misfortune, Bandle City, Bilgewater, Mono Teemo, SIPNZ, and then the Mono Freljord, Nar Tryndamere. That's what he queued into at 6-0. And then at 7-0, he queued into the same person. Queued into the exact same person at 7-0. So, apparently it's just happening to multiple people with brand new accounts and low accounts. So if this is a thing, this is absolutely ridiculous that this is possible. Because, for example, my friend Drizoth, that you guys probably know, Micah, he had a hell of a run. He played against Majin Bay, who everyone knows is a top tournament player, literal seasonal winner. He played against, and Majin also just won this recent $2,500 tournament. And then Micah has to play against the guy who got second to Majin in that same $2,500 tournament. Then he has to play against Stolen Conch, who is consistently a top-ranked ladder player and has also made runs in tournaments. Like, that type of ladder that, like, Drizoth had to go through to try and qualify for day 2 is just, like, not even close or comparable to people that played against 3 champion decks for 9 rounds straight. Now, I'm not trying to advocate or say that oh, good players and my friend should always make day 2, and it's not fair that my friend had a harder time, or sorry, it's not fair that my friend didn't make it. I'm saying it's not fair that my friend had a harder time simply because the system deemed him a good player. The system gave him high MMR because he is a good player in their eyes, so he put him against other good players, whereas these not good players or new players got put up against other new players, so their time was just significantly equal. And if that stays a thing, if MMR like sticks around and doesn't change, like it very much would be optimal to just have a dedicated competitive account. Definitely not a Smurf account. Don't Smurf because Smurfing is against TOS. But if you have a dedicated competitive account that just simply has no MMR or low MMR because it's unranked, or it's in like iron, then your runs will just be significantly easier. Now, granted, again, there's changing matchmaking, so you should probably, like, if my friend is 9-0, or sorry, our friend here, oh, wrong things, like, Ostadio's friend was 7-0 and queued into this, like, mono, this stuff, like, or 6-0, this person's probably not going to be 6-0 and have the same record and find them, unless they are, which, if that's the case, and they are 6-0, then that shows you matchmaking, or MMR is, like, super scuffed, but yeah, like that, it's probably not something we have to super worry about going into the future. It is just something extremely frustrating for like gauntlet runs and stuff that just shouldn't exist. The biggest issue here is the time change in the middle of the day. So to start things off, the lack of communication around this was abysmal, and all we had to go off of really was in-client information. So to start things off, in-client, it said the tournament was going to be starting, I'm just going to use my local time, at 5 a.m., like Saturday morning to 2 a.m. Saturday night, like Sunday morning, if that makes sense. So almost a 12-hour window. So it gave you like essentially a 9-hour window, or sorry, more than 12-hour, almost a 24-hour window. So it gave you like a 20-hour window to complete your open run, which is a lot longer than people thought it would be. But on top of that, a lot of players thought like, oh, well, I will just play when the thing first opens, because most people aren't going to be awake. Because especially if you think about it, this is my local time. 5 a.m. my time is 3 a.m. on Pacific Coast, so on like California and stuff. And then that's like, I think that's like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or something like that in Brazil. I think Brazil's like 3 hours ahead of me or something like that. So really, that's like an okay time, a reasonable time for Brazilians to be waking up, and a not acceptable time really for like Californians and West Coast people to be waking up. So a lot of Brazilians in South American countries that are ahead in times where this is like, 6, 7, 8 a.m. for them, are like, yeah, I'll wake up like an hour or two early. I'll play when like a lot of the like hard competition's not on, and I'll just like get an easier bracket was the idea. Well, they waited up, or they either woke up extremely early or just stayed up the entire night to find out that the open pushed its time back. It just randomly decided like, no, we're going to start 4 hours later. So the open actually started at 9 a.m. my time, but imagine if I woke up at like 4:30 a.m., got my coffee, got my shower, my stretches, all that type of stuff, got ready to play, and all of a sudden it changes back 4 hours in the future. So now my options are like try to go back to sleep when I just had coffee and breakfast and woke up, or just sit here and be awake for 4 more hours at an egregious time and be upset about it. So that's kind of stupid, but whatever, it's like, whatever, they can always start later, like, they just don't get their advantage they think they're going to get, so they fall asleep, come back later in the day, start their open run at, like, middle of the day, whatever, it's fine. The part that was really scuffed is the client then changed times a second time, but not the start time, it changed the end time. It moved the end time of the tournament up an hour. So these people that thought like, oh, I have time to play, the tournament cut off early without saying anything. I think in client it might have changed, but like once you're already in the groove and you're in tournament mindset, you don't go back and like pay attention like, hey, let me double check that the tournament isn't going to end an hour early type thing, So people were like taking their time, doing what made them feel the most comfortable to give them the most success run. And I think the biggest story we have out of this is Teddy, for those of you that don't know, it's the previous seasonal champion, EU Masters champion, and then world champion runner-up. So he was the world champion runner-up. He got second place at Worlds, won a seasonal, won EU Masters, was going for the trifecta, the Grand Slam, almost won everything there was to win last year as a European player. And he got absolutely screwed over by this. because he was 8-0, and he was taking his time, playing comfortably, doing what was best for him. This really good player. He was 8-0, and all of a sudden the tournament just ended because he couldn't play his last match. So the client ended the queue an hour early than what was shown, and it screwed him over because you have to get 9 wins to qualify. 9-0 qualified you, 9-1 sometimes qualified you, but 8 wins is like not going to get you there. So he went 8-0, probably going to go 9-0, most certainly going to go at least 9-1, just because of the quality of player he is and how matchmaking worked. And he just didn't get to play. They just took it away from him. He just didn't get to play day 2. And this is by far just the most unacceptable thing of the entire Open. There is no excuses. This is just like purely unacceptable, right? And if anything makes this Open not count towards Worlds points, it should be this and this, like at bare minimum, this alone, because you screwed over so many people out of having the chance to day 2 simply because there was no communication and you decided to end the client in the tournament an hour before the client showed us. You have people like Teddy not qualifying, who's probably going to qualify and had a chance to qualify for Worlds and get his Worlds points. But not only Teddy, like, who knows how many other people this could have screwed over? Like, we only know of Teddy because he is so popular and he is such a good player. We don't know how many other people in Europe were 8-0 or 8-1 and didn't have that chance to play that last round to qualify because they thought they had a whole extra hour and a whole lot of time to it, right? So this is just because of that reason. I think this entire Open should not count towards Worlds. Sure, let people keep their prize money. Like, I'm not saying take that away from them, but this whole thing is just not fair. To keep competitive integrity at stake, this is not. It is just not fair. And so the last point is this Open just shouldn't have happened. This Open was a joke. This is the worst competitive tournament Red's ever held. I said at the start, and I know people are gonna say like, well, Mo, it's just the first Open, man. Get them some slack. And the answer is like no, man. Like, I'm not gonna give them some slack. We had a 2 to 3 month beta period run for this shit exactly. Like, the exact reason we had that beta run was to test this shit out and to make sure things worked out well and to make sure things just worked, or they knew what to expect, or they knew how to fix things. But what was the point of that beta system if it did not fix things, or did not fix things in time? I would have rather them extended the beta period an extra month than have this be their first official Open towards Worlds points and have so many people get screwed over because of Riot's mistakes. So if they want to treat it like it's a beta run and say like beta Open and say like, oh, well, this is like, there are going to be some mistakes here and like this is going to kind of suck, but we're fixing it, don't worry. Then like treat it like a beta Open and don't give out points. With how top heavy the points are to qualify for Worlds, only 3 people qualify with points each season. You almost certainly have to do well at all 3 Opens to have a chance, because if just 2 people or 3 people high roll and day 2 all 3 Opens, there you go, you're going to get beat out by those people. So the fact that they just completely took that away from some people and took away, some people just now have no chance of qualifying for Worlds potentially and just have to wait until the very next season, or obviously like the World qualifier next month, the big tournament. If they don't win that, they basically just have to wait until the next 3-month season and try to qualify off of that, which to me is just simply unacceptable when so many people lost out on Worlds points due to Riot's fault and Riot's fault alone. In the past, they've made a seasonals not count towards Worlds due to Riot system issues and Riot failures. So for just like the sake of competitive integrity, I hope they do the same here. If they don't, it'll just be kind of horrible. Yeah, and I'm not just saying that because I didn't day 2. I know that's what a lot of people are like, well, you're just mad you didn't day 2 and you didn't get Worlds points, so it's hard for you to qualify. Like, I don't care about that. I genuinely don't. I didn't qualify because like I played poorly. I was not prepared. It has absolutely nothing to do with how this tournament was ran and how the system was ran. And I think just for the entirety of competitive integrity, for the people that did do well and still didn't get rewarded, should be like all the people who went 9-1 and didn't qualify. I think if you go 9-1 in an Open and you don't make day 2, your system is fucked. Just straight up, your system is fucked. If you go 9-1 and don't make day 2, if 9-0 becomes the new standard for being locked in the Open, then this entire system is a massive failure, and they should go back and completely revamp it if people have to go 9-0 to qualify. 9-1s can qualify, but if you're bubbled out at 9-1, which means you don't qualify at 9-1, that is just simply unacceptable, and your system is a failure. So step 2, what happens after my twit longer is apparently we have proof that someone in the top 4 of EU, which I turned out was actually the top 8, lost their original open run on their main account day 1, and then they hopped on a Smurf account and they qualified for day 2 with the second chance and had pushed it all the way to like the top 4 finish, which ended up being a top 8 finish. So the question is, like, is Riot gonna do anything? And so here is some of the proof. As people are like, I remember like I was in Alan's chat when people brought this up, and the first thing any pro player and top player is gonna tell you, say prove it. Because cheating allegations is something that is very, very hard to get off of your name if it is somewhat true or proven true, or basically not proven like false. And it's not something you want on you. Like I get accused a lot of stream sniping because of how I hand read and how aggressive I play. I take a lot of risks, especially on ladder where the games don't matter. I take a lot of risks. I take a lot of measurements that just like kind of don't make sense sometimes because I'm learning. And I want to like just straight up limit test how things work. And also I just have a really good hand read, so sometimes I can know exactly what's in someone's hand. And I'll go back and I'll watch the VOD of someone's stream, and the whole chat's just filled with like stream sniper, cheater, or the streamer will have their like stream blackened out because they think I'm like stream sniping. And stuff like that is just like such a hard thing to get rid of, especially in card games where that's like a core mechanic. That cheating allegations just are not something to be taken lightly. So because of that, people were like, oh, show me the proof before you say anything else. Before I even acknowledge this like stupid claim you have, show me the proof. And like, here's the proof. So Raceland finished top 4 in EU, which is top 8. And the account used in day 2 is a Smurf account, is right here. So here on LoR Master, you can see day 2s. They call them seasonal still. But it is the opens. So you see here, seasonal. It says right here. And you can see here he lost to Buta. So Tabuta went on to win the whole thing. Congratulations to Tabuta. But lost here, beat Cocky to get into top 8, which is... Cocky had an amazing run. Cocky Baki. Big shout out to him. Big friend of mine. But you see here, this account did like really well in Seasonal. Ranked, played some ranked, whatever. But basically played in Seasonals and did fairly well. Made it all the way to top 8. But then you look at this person's account and it says rank... Oh, sorry. Is this the right Seasonal... seasonal games. Oh yeah, sorry. This is a different account than the top 50 game, or sorry, the top 50 player here, Raceland. Which, if you look at the top 50 player here, you'll see that the match history doesn't line up because there is no. As soon as it loads, you'll see that there won't be seasonal games here, and it's just kind of screwed unless I put the links in the wrong order. But you see here, this seasonal run was on this account here. You see this account from 2 days ago. This person has just ranked, but this is a different account. This is just a completely different account. This has different match history from ranked as 2 days ago. This has ranked yesterday. Yeah, see, like, oh, sorry, that's seasonal still. So ranked from like 2 days ago, Astral Blanc, and so like this. And you see here, like, there's no Astral Blanc. So, and this is just simply not the same person, right? Very clearly not the same account. And so you could say like, oh, well, maybe he just hopped on a Smurf account because he heard that MMR is easier. So he heard about the MMR issue, so hopped on a Smurf account, which again, like Smurfing is kind of a gray area with TOS and stuff like that. But using multiple accounts is a very clear do not do. It's very clearly stated in TOS that players can only use one account. But we can see here that the one account the player used yesterday, so Raceland, this is his Riot ID. His main account's Riot ID. We can even match up the ranked games here. So ranked games from 2 days ago, Karma, Jack, Karma. You see here like Karma, Jack, Karma. Match up the ranked games to this account here. And we see this account, if you look at the standard gauntlet, let's see, he won here. So he's 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, 4-1, 4-2, 4-3. So the guy goes 4-3. I think it's actually... I thought it was 5-3, but apparently he goes 4-3 and doesn't qualify on his main account here, which again is the main account that pops up when you go to EU. If you go to the leaderboards, go to EU, you go to Raceland, who's like a top 50 player. Where is he at here? He might have dropped. Let me see here. Raceland, so right here, top 50 player, you see this like 5.5550 win rate. Like it's just super bugged out because of the multiple accounts. So it is just simply not the same account anymore. So he goes 4-3, doesn't qualify. So that means that he went 5-3, which I guess turned out to be 4-3. Didn't qualify. Hopped on a secondary account, and then proceeded to go 9-0 or 9-1 or whatever, and then qualify. And then now he made it all the way up to top 4 or top 8 because he was able to essentially just have a second chance and cheat and give himself a second chance and more chances to qualify. Because what if he didn't qualify on this one? He just gets on like another account. I'm not saying he did this, or he would have, or I'm not trying to get into speculation. I'm saying you could have just been like, oh, well, I didn't do my second run. Let me drop $50 here, buy the top 3 decks, and then have a third shot again. And if you're a top player, I would say on average, you're like second run, like for sure by your third run, you're probably going to go 9-0 or 9-1, especially with how scuffed the matchmaking was. So yeah, there's that. So this person made all the way to top 4, cheated, and now he's going to get world's points and prize money for that. But that's not where things stop. Where things stop is not only did someone in top 8 of EU's Open do that, the person that got second place did that and played on a second account. So I kind of just wrap things up shortly because we understand how it works here, but we are going to just simply look at the main account for this Karashi person, and then we're going to look at the secondary account. Whoa, it says Zing 0. That's kind of crazy. We'll get to that in a moment. So if you see here, Karashi 2 days ago, so 2 days ago was Saturday, you can see here that the gauntlet went, he won, so he's 1-0, 1-2, or sorry, he's 1-0, 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, I think. Oh, let me update. Oh, that is updated. Let's see, 1-0, 1-0, 1-1, 1-2, 2-2, beat this person. But basically, their gauntlet run kind of just like stopped. Their gauntlet run just stopped. But you can see this person is the main account. He's scrimming here with like Broken Ball. It is just not. He didn't have a good run. He didn't have a good run. I don't know why this isn't showing all 3 losses. But basically, you move over to this account, and you have the person that played in the tournament yesterday, the day 2. And if you go back and you watch Teddy's stream, and if you look at other people's match history, it shows you that it was Karashi. And Karashi was on Twitter saying, like, oh, I did well. Teddy was like, Karashi did well. Teddy streamed the event and streamed, let me see if I can pull it up here. Teddy, I think it's like Teddy CCG or something. Oh, my Switch is always so slow when it loads, sorry. But basically, Teddy, let's go Teddy CCG. It's probably something like that. Teddy CCG. And I don't know if we'll be able to find it. But basically, he streamed the event, just trust. He streamed Karashi's finals, and the finals against Tabuta. And the finals, it very clearly said Karashi versus Tabuta. Karashi is a German player along with Teddy, and Teddy was, saying like Karashi is playing right now. So multiple people confirmed that it is Karashi, the person playing. But if you look at the account's name is Yang Zera. If you looked at his main account, it does not show him doing well in the Open or in the Gauntlet. But this person made it all the way up here, lost in the finals, but this person's name says Yang, and that's because this was a Smurf account. This is Karashi's Smurf account. It's not Yang's. Don't blame Yang for anything. He didn't do anything wrong here. Is Karashi's Smurf account that Yang used like a long, long time ago for a European tournament type thing. I think like a year ago, Yang used it for a European tournament. But Karashi just like literally has not used it since, therefore never needed to change the name until, it was time for him to redo his Open run and cheat and get a second time going. And so he's like, oh, I have a Smurf account. Let me change the name on that to Karashi so it doesn't look suspect and let me play and win. So he plays, gets all the way to second place, earned like $500, earned a bunch of riot points to get to Worlds to qualify for that. Yeah, all because he cheated and took advantage of, getting a second time and giving himself multiple runs. So, as you can see there, yeah, lost day 1 on main account. When you look at Master Tracker, the account even says Yang Zera, and the reason it says that is because Master Tracker and some websites sometimes take a couple days for the API to recognize name change. I know this because I change my name a lot, and so when people go to look up my name, sometimes it doesn't change quickly, and so it can be kind of hard to find you. So I think that in EU was absolutely crazy. I think a lot of shit happened in EU because APAC is kind of like their own region that a lot of people don't communicate with. But a lot of shit happens in EU, like people having their runs cut off an hour early, people cheating, all this stuff because it happens first because of how time zones work. So then NA kind of woke up, saw the shitstorm that happened in EU, saw about how like the runs got cut off an hour early, so kind of like prepare for that and all this shit. So we kind of that's why there's not as many cases in NA that happened. I think there is one. I think Seabass kind of got screwed because he woke up late and just prepared to play late and didn't know about the time change thing. But yeah, a lot of stuff does happen to NA because it happens to EU first, and we kind of find out about it and then don't let that happen to us. Yeah, so cheaters in EU, in my opinion, they should just, I don't think they should get like permabanned or anything like that from a card game. I think they definitely should not be given their Worlds points at the very minimum, and I definitely think they should not be allowed to play in this Worlds qualifier, either for the rest of this season or however long Riot wants to do it. I think there needs to be a pretty hard example set, unfortunately, to kind of deter people away from doing it, to say like, hey, if you get caught cheating, I want you to know that there is like a ban coming, or there is something very harsh coming. As we saw, that works a lot in other games like CSGO. They had a big match fixing scandal like early on in its years. Valve hit them, like their company hit them with a permanent ban on all competitive play, and since then there has not been, to my knowledge anyways, or to the public's knowledge, a big match fixing or like match fixing stuff like that, because people know that the risk is that you will never get to play your game competitively again, which is, you know, really not good if your aspirations are to become a good competitive player. Especially since to get any type of prizing or to get anything from Riot, you can't even say like, oh, we'll just make a secondary account and they'll never know it's you. But if you do that, you still can never day 2 anything, and you can never go to Worlds, because as soon as you day 2 and you get Worlds points, and as soon as you get into the money, or really as soon as you get into the money, you are going to have to show like an ID verification, and they're just like not going to let you in. And you're just, you know, they're not going to let you do that. Obviously, they can do stuff like IP ban, MAC ban, all that type of stuff. But basically, what I want from these people is I do kind of want something harsh, just for the sole reason of deterring people from doing this in the future. And while you still can do it, to let people know that, yeah, sure, you can, because our system's not perfect. But if you do, you are going to get, you know, screwed, and you're risking not being able to play competitive LoR ever again, just so you have a chance at this. Like, it's not worth it. And then finally, the thing that I love the most about this weekend, is just kind of end things on a little bright note, is Dave Guskin, who is, I don't know his official title, at LoR, executive producer and game director. That's what it is. So very high up over LoR, put out a statement yesterday, during, like, in the middle of the Americas Open, day 2. And I responded with, like, such a quick acknowledgement. The statement from Riot's amazing. Like I said earlier, I made a tweet earlier that said I still have high hopes for the future, even though things kind of went to shit. I really hope they don't make an open account. Oh, I really hope they don't make this open account towards Worlds because of how things went, but just any amount of feedback and communication is great. Again, expressing that I really just don't think this should count, to be fair to all the players that got screwed out of points. And then I said earlier in a tweet that, like, even though this thing kind of did go to shit, give Riot the benefit of the doubt. They are fixing things going into the future. They have clear plans fixed in place. Hopefully they can look at things and how they went today and fix them in the future, and I am very hopeful of that. And I definitely still think Legends of Runeterra competitive scene will be growing, and I think in the future, literally after this open, things have the potential to just continue to be, like, amazing and great. It really just comes down to how they handle this open. That's also why I think this open shouldn't count, because it's such a stain on the competitive scene that it just shouldn't count. But I still have high hopes for the rest of it. And so kind of going off that, Dave kind of comes out early and says, you know, this. Hi friends, I want to acknowledge the issues folks are having with the Runeterra Open this weekend. Early join time exploits, frustrating matchmaking and top cuts, and end time surprises. I used to be a competitive player. I get this stuff feels really bad. As you're probably aware, our beta season, we test ran an open that wasn't a day 2 open style, that the team worked hard to get ready for the Glory Navori season. So to change a lot, it was riskier to roll it out. The beta didn't reveal many issues. And then he just says, like, we'll discuss it as a team early next week and explore how to fix those issues. Ruben noticed some upcoming matchmaking fixes and stuff like that, and how we can make it right with you all. Thanks, expect to hear back from me midweek. So this line right here, it says, how we can make things right with you all. Kind of tells me that the offer of taking this open out of the Worlds rotation is up there, because how are you going to make things right with us by just saying, like, sorry? Like, I don't think just saying sorry or this next open will be better, trust, source me, is making it right with us. I think that's kind of just, like, I think admitting fault is good, but that doesn't actually fix anything. You know, if I punch you in the face and I just say sorry, you know, that doesn't make things right with you. That kind of just like doesn't really do much. Not the best example, but you get what I'm saying. And so that's kind of what this is to me. Is I like that I put out an early statement. A lot of people say like, oh, this is a say nothing statement. They're not actually saying anything. They're not doing anything. But this is good. I don't want them to act immediately. I think lack of critical thinking and thinking ahead is kind of what put us in a lot of these situations. So I like the fact that he's here early on a Sunday saying, hey guys, we acknowledge what happened. We acknowledge that this was ran poorly. And it says explicitly things that, you know, I said it, literally everything I said in my tweet longer, they acknowledged. So I'm not saying they read my tweet longer, but, you know, acknowledge the tweet longer and said early time exploits, matchmaking, literally everything we already went over, and said like, you know, we acknowledge this stuff, we see that it's happening, we are going to come together to talk about, I guess, like maybe why it happened or what to do in the future, stuff like that, and then we are going to give you a, you know, more thought out response in the middle of next week, which to me is very, very good. So thanks, expect to hear back from me midweek, which again is something I would much rather than just come down and say like, these players are banned, open, you know, counts, all in like what, like a 2-hour window of impulse. Like that doesn't sound very good. Also, if they did the opposite and they were like, yeah, none of the players get banned, it all gets warnings, and this world sticks, it's like you're just gonna let people cheat and steal world's points and then like just not care about how this affected all these people that weren't these specifically like, you know, 64 players that got world's points type thing. So whatever they come up with after thinking, I'm much more likely to, I feel like people in general are going to be more likely to like accept and be like, yeah, there's probably some good reasonings. They had sat down and they talked, and it was more than just like an impulse 2-hour decision type thing. So I'm very, very happy with this response. I guess the perfect response from Dave and from Riot and LoR in general. So super, super, super excited. So that's gonna be it for this video. That's basically it for everything that happened this weekend, other than the actual tournament itself. But that video will be tomorrow, where I go over the decks that won. Because I'm not doing a meta Monday or anything, because this none of this time really matters, because we're going to have a patch before the next open, and I typically don't like to do meta Mondays and stuff like that before patches that happen on the open, because I think preparing on a patch that you're not going to be playing on is kind of like a waste of time, to put it briefly. You're not really learning or practicing or setting up for the thing that matters, so it's kind of just like a have fun on ladder type of deal and get your ladder points as you can. So that's gonna be it for this video. Make sure to tune in tomorrow to see where I go over card gamer floppies and lists and show you guys what did really well in NA. It's not what you expected. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.